Okay. We left off last week with the second part of the mitzvah of מעונן, the 32nd lav. And let's pick it up and try to read it. I don't know. Ubechlal ashara zo gam kein isa poel achatuvim. And that's Ibn Tibin. Probably Kapach, I assume, is probably closer to the Ksaviyad. Amaase hazeh gam oso maase achizas hoinai. So it basically is saying in Arabic achizas hoinai. Okay, so when there's nothing new over here. Chatumim, then there's not unless that. Then there's no basis for discussion about chatumim over here, and it's the same thing later. I don't want to talk about this now. I'm just going to mention it, and I guess it'll have to be part of a broader discussion. I've spoken many times about the word b'chlal, and what I thought was a pretty convincing thesis that b'chlal is not the ikar lav, it's just included under it, and we pointed out that Agudas b'shnei botei dinim is b'chlal the lav of kolcho, and if there's no malchus, and the Ham says there it's only drosha. We pointed out Mishnah Torah. We pointed out b'chlal for the mitzvah of v'smachta b'chagecho. There's a mitzvah of noshim b'ruim lo. It is not the ikar mitzvah. And therefore, the Ram puts the mitzvah of Simchas Yontif in Hilchos Chagiga, not in Simchas, and the mitzvahs of Yontif, of Hilchos Yontif. We pointed out that there might be Bechlal ve'after l'ach b'dika mitzvah when we're talking about Shiur Sheni, and we had other cases here. L'chayra breaks the rule, because the Ram says that that achiz zeinayim is b'chal the mitzvah, and he clearly says it's malchus. I'm just pointing out the general rule and the exception, or maybe there's no rule. What can I tell you? Okay, so in this lav, there are basically two isurim, and both are malchus, and we're going to have basically two issues with this. How b'chlal can you use the same word to have two separate isurim? You have to understand that. I don't know if I do understand that 100%. And if you understand that, why should it be malchus for both of them? And especially it might be lavsha b'klolis. And we'll discuss all the issues in Mitzvah. Okay, so now the Rambam continues. For Loshen HaChachomim, see here, the Rambam is and Chachomim is in the Ksaviyad. He's referring to the Moshe Hedron on Samachem Beis. Ma'onen ze hoiches es hoinayim. Ma'onen ze hoiches es hoinayim. And the Lashon Chachomim that you'll find in the Moshe Hedron, Samachem Beis, Moinen Ze Oiches Zeinayim goes like this. Tano Abon Moinen Rabbi Shimon Oime Ze Amave Shibo Mini Zochal. You have to understand that. That's not for now. At the moment, soon or sometime in the near future. Chom Oimim Ze Oiches Zeinayim. Rabbi Kiva Oime זה המחשב איתם ושעוז. ואוימר היום יופר לוצייס, למוחו יופר likach. We discussed this. It's setting up times, and there's also the lashon of Ma'onen is basically used in two ways. It's referring to a naim or a period of time owner. So it's either this way, that way. It ends up both ways. And the Ram has no problem, both are Chayiv Malkus. Then the Rambam tries to define what does it mean, Oiches es einayim? Oiches einayim is to hold on to the eyes. So the Ram says, Vumin godo min atachbula, mechuba elo of kalas atnua. It's some quick movements. Ad she's dame la'anoshim sheyase inyonim ein amitus lahem. It appears to people that he does something which has there's no reflection in truth in it, because he really didn't do it. The kapach it's a trick or something like that. He's very quick with his hands. People see that he did something which he really didn't do. And the Ram gives examples of that. We'll come back and understand everything. We'll put a rope in the back or underneath his beged or his cape, whatever. Lifnei ha'om, and everyone's watching him. And v'yotzieu nochosh, and the ostensibly the rope would turn into a serpent. He put in the rope, but he took out the serpent. V'yashlech tabas ba'avir, and he throws a ring into the air. V'achkach yotziu, this ring that he threw into the air, mipi odem echod min ha'oimdim lefonav, and he really threw it in the air. Okay, and it ends up in the mouth of one of the people standing in the audience. And not only these cases, or those who are oiches einayim, that they pull on the eyes or take control of the eyes, and the eyes think that X happened, or that really that the rope turned into a snake, and what he really actually did was to pull out the snake, and the rope went some other place, I guess. Anyone who does this is called einayim. And then he'll say, which we have no clue of what that means. And he gets malchus. Okay. Now let's go back slowly and try to understand. This is like every word is very hard. But the important thing, for halacha l'maisa is anyone who reads the Rambam, certainly at least in a cursory fashion, maybe more than that, will assume that to perform magician acts, which are performed in many places and occasions, is a lav. and he's Chizas Einayim. And we'll see in Mitzvah Hashem that the Chochmas Adam takes this very seriously and says that anyone who does this violates the law. And we'll go on and on, understand whether all the Pshat Mochas Einayim like the Rambam, whether there's a Machokas Tanoim, because basically 3 days in the Tanoim, and one would assume there's 3 different opinions, and he should pass like one of them, ending on like passing like 2 or maybe 3 is certainly very interesting. And then the issue of how do you end up with so many surim, and if you have so many surim, how do you get malchus? So one thing at a time. The Rambam, we said that because of the quickness of his hand, the magician, people assume that X was done when really it wasn't. It just looked like X was done because of the speed of his hands. And the Rambam is Kalas Hatznu, okay? The Ravid has a whole different pshat. And the Ravid's opinion is that Achizas Einayim is not Kalas Hatznu, but it's an optical illusion. That people look at something and think they see X, and really they don't, it really is not there. The Sefer, the Ravid is Pirush Sefer, Parashat Kedoshim, Parashat Gimel, Perek Vav Halacha Beis, Ta'וננו, Zeh ha'oiches es ha'einayim, Pirush she'oiches in maris ayin. He takes over the people's eyes. Shel b'nei Adam, that they see things, milirois u'melahaki b'ma'aseim, u'medamen la'adam acher, sheyire es asod kula mleya kishuyim and. A person looks at the field and thinks that it's full with produce. Ve'ein bo afilu echod v'chein ki yotzeh be'elu. Somehow they get the person to have an optical illusion, ki'ilu, that the field is full of produce and there's really nothing there. And the Rambam is not an optical illusion, it's just very fast hand movements that the person thinks that he actually is doing X and really doing Y. L'cheri is the Ram saying that between the Chachom and Rabbi Akiva, there's no machlekes, because in the beginning of this mitzvah, he quotes Rabbi Akiva that it's times, that's what I'm talking about, astrology. And the end, he's talking about magicians that are very fast in their movements. That's also under the law of Ma'ine. But the third shot, both in Teres Kohanim and in the Gemara Sanhedrin, is Gemara Sanhedrin, Zeh Amar v'yeshiva minei zochro al o'ayin. And that's what Shimon is. It was Shimon b'Yishmael. The Rambam does not quote this day at all. So for some reason, you're passing like the day of Chachamim and Rabbi Akiva, and the day of Rabbi Shimon or Rabbi Yishmael is completely falls to the wayside. Interesting, on this issue, the Rambam falls by the wayside, and the Ran is also mashma like that. The Ran only questions whether there's a machlekes or we pass it like both of them. The Chacham Rabbi Akiva. But Rabbi Yishmael or Rabbi Shimon doesn't come somehow doesn't reach the halachic arena. The Chidush Milchos Naran, Sanhedrin, Samachem Beis, Liva Masav Chachamim. Oimrim Ze Oiches Einai Akiva Oim Ze Machashev Itois B'Shaos Vadai Ipligi Rabbonon Alei Rabbi Akiva Halachic Rabbonon. So there's certainly Achizei Naim is also. V'choshuv itim v'shoos mutter. So you're allowed to do whatever itim v'shoos are. Avo ika l'meimar the ma'o machada u'ma'o machada v'lepuli. V'chein posach harambam v'pegir al-nuchzav v'dezorah. V'nidrash me'oinei meloshen einayim v'meloshen oina. And you can do both. I guess it's, I assume it's something like shkulim. And therefore both are awesome. But the chiddush is that you have a shkulim in both are awesome and you chayiv malchus both are vadai. It's an amazing thing. You say maybe it's this and maybe it's that. We don't know. No, we know. It's 100%. It's both this and both that. And we mainly get malchus on both. That's Ram's opinion. Now, what happens over here? Comes Rabbi Shimon or Rabbi Yishmael and says that it's a mavir shivo mine zocho alo ayin. So what's the case? So the Ravid says the case in Teres Kohanim over there. Rabbi Yishmael mavir es reinayim mavir es hamavir alo einayim pirish hamavir mine zocho agabe einov bahashbo kedei shiire ma she'ein b'nei odom goyin. I guess there's a shvu. He's mashbir the shadim. He says v'dafka idei hashbo shehu ma'aseh shadim. He's mashbir the shadim to do some things for him, and he's ending up that his eyes are able to see things that he normally couldn't see. Avumi she'oisehu fu'la einov v'simonim yeduim or b'dvorim yeduim kedei she'yipatchu einov, that his eyes should get better. He does therapeutic things. That's not the issue. V'yu dvorim shehu ma'aseh shadim avumi she'oisehu fu'la einov v'simonim yeduim or b'dvorim yeduim kedei she'yipatchu einov, that his eyes should be healed and see again. V'yu dvorim mechusim b'nei odom mutter ke'ahu ma'aseh. So the whole case of this strange case of Mavim Minizoch Alayin is ashbo of shadim, and if not done through shadim, there's no problem. But Tanakama Rabbi, now so it's very interesting. Because in these two pshatim and the ayin, the question is, if it's achizas einayim, it means that you're pulling the eyes to try to cover them. And according to Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Shimon, you're doing just the opposite. You're trying to open up the eyes to see new vistas and new horizons which you couldn't see before. And this, the Malbim points out, that sometimes the being covered of Ma'ine can just turn the verb to be the opposite. That Ma'ine means Einayim. It means to close the Einayim, Achiz the Einayim, and comes to being covered, it makes it to open the eyes. Now here I could imagine the logical thing is this, you can imagine logically to say that it's the two pshatim, because it's shkulim. But I don't think you could imagine, you see, the Malbim says that there's a diktuk issue, that the question is sometimes the being covered can reverse the verb and turn it upside down. And here, the verb of ma'onen means to close the eyes. And Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Shimon learns it means to open the eyes. So I can imagine you could say that it's eyes and also times, and it's shkulim, we don't know which one to go. But to say mamanashach, either you interpret the verb of being covered as what it seems to say, or just the opposite because it's covered. So it's mutually exclusive, and that's where the Ran and the Ram come from. However, the Raiva turns the world upside down. But Tanakaba, Rabbi Yishmael Doshin as a mikra zeh miloshen einayim. Rabbi Akiva Derish Oisei miloshen oina. Elu noisnei itim kagoin elu shoimim loim de shvius liois chitim b'chulei. What akula is not the toiva is not toiva. V'yoimani dafka v'yoisem ma'isov al iyu naitim halolu going shoime emkot vuasi. It's not saying something, but he does something. Emkot vuasi achshav kodem shiyov erev shvius v'emko isa v'yoisem shah shetia b'yoker. This is eino boiteach b'Hashem yizbarach v'yoime b'liboy kimin hagoi noyeg. The ain't koyach l'shabbos. So it's very interesting. The Raiva is very clear that it's a problem of days and bitochen HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then he adds a line, which is the important line over here for us. V'chol elu adroshes shedochen lo Shedoshin of Kunasuis. V'ein zeh mevatel divrei. So how you can have all of them is a very interesting thing. And this, the Raiva das Yochid Rishonim. Some Rishonim learn there's a machlekes, the Riyaz, and the Lochas of Rabbi Akiva. Some, the Rambam and the Ran learn there is a machlekes, but you can have the halacha like both of them. But Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Shimon don't come in. And comes the Raiva, it says everything. Now, let's continue. Misha Isem Ze Yikor Eiches Einayim, Misha Isem Ze Yikor Eiches Einayim, Vuhu Min Mimin Akishuf, Miminei Ze Sofek Malkus. So if I had written it, I would have said Misha Isem Ze Yikor Eiches Ze Yikor Eiches Maisa Eiches Einayim, Miminei Maisa. Even a shoyse meise, sefkes aboyim. It's Chai Malkus. Comes to Rambam and adds a phrase which a priori adds more confusion than explains anything. Shoisa zeh oiches einayim v'hu min mimini akishuv, and kishuv was a separate lav in minyan mitzvahs. We'll have it mitzvah after nichush. And since it's min akishuv b'nei zeh seifik malchus, doesn't make any sense. That's what's the I'm going to try to explain what truth is. It sounds very strange. So first of all, who min hakishuv is kapach better who min mimine akshofim, but min mimine. It's not who min. The min doesn't min, and the first min is a type, and min from a type of kishuv. It's a min of mine kishuv. So the first problem you have to ask yourself is, we understand very well the kishuv is a separate lav minyan mitzvahs. So what's the Ram bringing it in? And what's the relationship in achizas einayim and kishuv? So it's a type of kishuv because the definition of kishuv is maisim nifloim that appear shenirim she'efshel fiatem. That's called kishuv. To do the impossible, to do what's naturally impossible. Drama in the Nevuchim, Chelik Gimel, Perek Tezayin, Shakishuv, Asher Tishma Oisai, Hu Bipulois Shoya Oisom Hatzaba, Akazdim, Valkaldim, V'yoyse Hoya b'Mitzrayim v'Kananim. Various peoples, all the ones that we're basically very familiar with, except for the Tzava and the Kasdim we heard of, the Chaldean, the Tzava is the people that Avram came out of. Hoyu Mevi'im Lachshei Bohen, Oy Hoyu Cheshmin Shehem, Yasu Maisim Nifloim b'Metzias. It appears to them that the maisim nifloim done by this magician. It's the reason can't explain how and why it happened. And the intellect, logical reasoning can't explain it. So there's a tzad hashava because this oiches einayim, the Rambam of Kalas Latnua, it looks like something which you can't explain. How did it happen? How did the snake come out of the rope? Or how did the ring, which was in the air, come out of the guy's mouth? And that's the Ram says. Let's read, and he's referring to both. Let's read in another chapter, in another section of Mon Nevuchim, Chelik Beis Perek Lamed Zayin. V'im Hoya. And this we'll see later. This I would have said is absolutely nuts. He talks about, you see, I don't know, someone would say this, I would have said, you know, and when I saw this, I said to myself, we're going to show. See, I don't even know how to start. You know, we talk about magicians or the people who do these, you know, this fast thing of almost, you know, taking the cat out of the hat, or taking a snake in the or a serpent in the place of a rope, or the ring coming from nowhere. You know, I would have said, you know, it's all sheker, or he's doing something, appears to be doing, you know, but you just don't understand how he's doing it, but he actually is doing it through chukei teva. The Rambam says the amazing, you know, what can I say? I can't take a chayes for it. I don't know. If someone told me, I would have said probably kfira, but you know, the Rambam said it, I don't know. That the tachburais of the machashev or this achiz zeinayim is based on divine inspiration. Okay. Yeah, I read it. Mechelik Beis Perek Lamed Zayin in Morin Nevuchim. V'im yiyeh haShefer ala medame levad, because the Rambam says if the shefa is on the divri, on the oratory koyach, then he's a choch. If the shefa eloki is on both the oratory koyach and the koyach hamadame, whether it's the imagination or the intuitive sense, then he's a novi. And Shefa Eloki is on the koyach hamadame by itself. Then, you know, if you recall, that's what's going on in Kaisem. You remember the Rav talking about the koyach hamadame, and it's activated, so it's koyach Eloki. So comes the Ram, V'yeh Shefa Hamadame Levad, V'yeh Kotzer Hadivri doesn't have the oratory sense. Im Meika Yitzira O Limuute Islamdus, Lemiut Islamdus. He's not born native. He doesn't have it. He wasn't endowed with it, and he didn't develop it through hard work. Zeis hakat hey manhigi hamedinos, the rulers of nations, maniche hanimusim, those that make up moral law, I guess. V'hakaismim v'hamenachashim ubale achaloimis atzeikais v'chein hoisim hapliois b'tachbura tulos hazoros. So I could imagine that these tachburais, apliais, hazorais, malachas and elomois refer to both a magician and to an oiches einayim. And it's with the koyach hamadame and divinely inspired, whatever it's worth. So it's a type of kishuv because it's a type of doing a dova pella, where it's inspired or whatever it is, and that's That's all very nice. But a priori, if you look at it, then this is just a parenthetical remark that the Ram basically is saying, and he said, he gets Malchus, and aside, both it has a similarity to Kishuv, that it's a double pellet. But the Lashon umipnei zeh sefer gabayim doesn't make much sense. Unless you put maybe in parentheses. What's the minei zeh sefer gabayim? Don't make a sense. What are we saying? So a priori, I would have said the best is to say that it's a parenthetical remark, but then B'nai is very hard to read. And he says, so if you come out, because it's not B'nai Zeh. Maybe the Ram is saying just the opposite. I'll try it. I'm not sure, but I know what I'm talking about. That it's only min kishuv, and it's not kishuv. Even though there are various aspects of kishuv and achizas einayim that have a common denominator in the Ma'aseh Pelech, asiyas ma'asim nifloim, that are impossible in the normal order, the natural order of things. Even though they have common denominators, but it's only min kishuv, and it's a separate lav. And since it's a separate lav, you can get Malchus. Because if it would have been one lav and part of Mechashev, the fact that Mechashev is Chayiv Misa, it would have been a lav shlik Nasoris Mises Bezdin. And there would have been no Malchus. And the reason why it's Malchus is that it's only min kishuv, and it's not really goes under the category of kishuv. That's why he puts it in this lav, not lav kishuv. And therefore you get Malchus. I never would have written this, but frankly, the Chinuch seems to say this. I don't know if he's saying Pshat and Rambam or whatever. I'll leave you the Chinuch and decide for yourself. Sefer Chinuch, Mitzvah Reish Nun. Vo'ese, vo'osoi, vo'oso, and with a sin, Niko oichis ho'einayim, v'hu b'chlal lav de mo'einin, v'leiken alo. V'af al pi, it's an apology, a kasha. It's a kasha. V'af al pi, shenema, mo'einin, eitzel machashev, because of echad, it's a one lav. Eino, min, I guess they've written together. That itself makes them in kishuv, I thought, because they have common denominators. Eino min kishuv mamish, she'ilu hoyo isabo mishum lav de mechashev, lo ayinu loiken alav. Mishum de lav de mechashev, lav shiglasos mises bezin. Shenem mechashev lo yisachayet. But karman l'cholav shiglasos mises bezin, they loiken alav. See, if you say like that, I would never have said it. Then you could imagine b'nei zeh, that it's only min kishuv is sefer Malchus. Okay. Next, this I want to know was relatively easy. Either you can accept this chat and Rambam, which sounds wild, or you say that the Mipnei Zeh Loikin is La Badafka, and the discussion about the Mechashev is a parenthetically more. Okay, say that, whichever you like. So this lav is clear to Isurim, is an Isa of astrology, acting upon astrology. And there's also an Isa of doing some type of magical achizeinayim, whatever it is. So the problem is that since it's oiches, since it's nichlal in the lav to isurim rabim, why isn't it a lav shebaklois? Like leisechol adam, shein loik Allah, when it has many isurim. And it should be like with name leisitim mirshal. Sheish bezeh halav shnei prushim with neighbor. With Fuish Baramam, then it's a lav shebaklois. And the Ram says the neighbor is lav shebaklois. We'll see that's too soon. The Rambam Misherish Chi says explicitly like this: V'ein roi she'imne kol isa v'isa shekol aleim ze halav mitzvah b'fnei atzmo avo yimne halav levadoi. You counted only one lav shebaklois in Minyan Mitzvahs. Shekol elu dvorim advorim kulam. The many things, but it's always one lav. V'dimion ze alav gamke kloima leisecha adam. Omrei, just like leisecha adam has many isurim. The lav of Ufneiva leisite mirshal also has many isurim, and is no malchus whatsoever. And the Ram says, by Lifnei, that it has two Isurim. He should zirinu mehachshil, kotzasenu es ksasenu, be Eitzah, and giving an Eitzah sheinu hagenis, vuhu she'im yishocha adam Eitzah bedovo, who nifte boy, who boaz hora, who nefate boy, and he nifte boy that he somehow will be led astray by you. Giving you a bad eight, so boaz horror milramoise machshiroi avoti ashreu eladovo shechoshiv shu toiviyosha. You should lead him to the right thing, not to the wrong thing. Loma yisale with navel situ mission. Losha sifro lifnei suma bedovo. Hoyenoitel mimcho eitze al tite leitze in against. Lav ze omroi. Shu koilo gamke mishiazer alavera or yisave voiso. He causes or helps a person to do aveir, which he who yovio ishahu sheivra tavosoi, that his taiva makes him blind. You have tavosoi ayin sichlo, his intellectual vision. V'chozer iver v'yifateu v'yazreu v'hashlim aveirosoi or yochelei sibo aveir. So those are two different types of subsum. That's what the Rambam says in Shiur Chi. This is a lav shebeklolos with neiva, and you don't get malchus. So the chayra, Marinain should be two isurim, the lav of astrology and the lav of magical achizeinayim. So you could have said, but you shouldn't say, that Lifnei Eva is different. And one is Pashid the Claw, H. Against, and the other is a Pirusha Makubal, Marshal Azulas Bavera. But the Ram clearly says, not like that. You say maybe once Pshashid the Claw, H. Against, and the other is a Pirusha Makubal, Marshal Azulas. And if you have like that, then it becomes Lav Shebekwalis. And you basically shouldn't say that, because the Ram the Lav of the Yiva says, Me'ela upon him Omu b'malvach v'lovo b'ribis sheshneim you yachad oivim l'fnei Yiva l'sikei mishal ki kol echad v'yen ozer chaveiro v'eichin loy la'ashlim aver udvorim rabbi me'ed mizeh amin yoim mem oiv mishal l'fnei Yiva l'sikei mishal u'pashte b'kol hu b'ma shezochalnu. The Pasha, the Claw, is H. Against, and the Pirush Makubal is to be Machshel in Aveda. And you can say by Ma'oneh, both of it be a Shmua. Whether it's a ayin or whether it's an oina. And if it's not Lav Shekul, we can't say that. Because Adarabba, if both are Pirushim, are Mipir Shmua, it's certainly a Lav Shebekolis. And that's Leisechel Adam. All the Pirushim Leisechel Adam Pirshmu. So L'cheira, it's Mamish Leisechel Adam. Why should there be two pshatim over here? Because you hold like this one, that one's it's a machlekes, and you possibly both in shkulim, then it's Mamish the Lav is either this or that, and it's not both. But you can get malchus in both. How do you do that? You get malchus in both, and certainly both. I mean, can you make it shkulim and really not allow shebekwalis? I don't know how it would be done. Now, there's another way of maybe getting out of this, but I'm also not convinced about it. You can do something the Malbim says. The Malbim in Pashas Kedoshim, Ois Ayin Beis, Val Yiksho Lecho Be'oinanim, Ki Plishtim Moinanim, Lo Yiyalecho, Ki Heim Shnei Shiroshim, Vatam Echot. So how could it be? Uleshit Zo, Acha Shematzon Lo Yisoinenu, Ulo Yimotzu B'chom Moinanim, they're two different psukim. Yesh Azho Leroches Zainayim, Begam L'Nois Neitim. Begins the two different psukim in the Torah. One lav is Leroches Zainayim, and one lav is for the Nois Neitim. It's beautiful. Kiheim Shnei Shroshim, Vatam Echot. First of all, if you look carefully at the Rambam over here, he quotes both lavim when he's talking about the ma'oneh of Nois Neitim. And he says it's nichbar lav, and he says both lavim mufurish refer to Nois Neitim. He can't say what the Malbim said. That's one. Secondly, the Ram Shurish test asks why is each one of the lavim in the lav of why are they separate lavim? So the Rambam says like this. He called Elu may why? And he's not the first type of lav shebeklolos. Excuse me. Ukva is boye b'chol echad mishneim la b'fnei atzmoi. So what do you need this lav leisainu not as a separate isa, but to megale that each one are separate isuim. Each lav mentioned is possible. Are separate lavim. So you can't do what the Malbim says according to the Rambam and say they're two separate lavim. I don't know how we count me and Mitzvah. Not interested in that, but the question is, does each lav refer to something else? So, frankly, whatever you say over here, the kasha about lav shebeklolos is a lot better than any tutzim, unless you can play around, but it seems to be logically impossible. If it's shkulim, l'cheira, it's close to suffix, can be badai both, and you can get malchus and say really they're not two different isuim over here, but each one is separate. I just don't get how it works. However, let me ask you a different question. Let's say one does both. He does a ma'aseh on Onenus, and he also does a ma'aseh machiz zeinayim. How many malchus does he get? One or two. So l'cheira, since in minyan mitzvahs it's one, it should be like al toichem min normal vusho, which according to the Rambam, there are two different isuim in there. But since they're both mentioned explicitly, you get malchus for them, but you only get one malchus, not two. And if you do both of them. So here also you can imagine that you get only one malchus, because this is one lav minyan mitzvahs, especially the whole Shurish test tells you that minyan mitzvahs and minyan malchus are the same. So since there's only one lav minyan mitzvahs, there can only be one malchus, even if you do both of them. That's what I would say. I'm ready to hear someone say the opposite, but that's what I think you should say. So I'm still very confused. Why isn't this a lav shebeklolos? Now, I'm very confused also about the psak of Shulchan Aruch over here. The Shulchan Aruch in Shurish in Kufay in Test in Sefer Aleph says Ein Shoylin b'chayzim b'koychovim v'lo b'gololis. So l'cheira mi and hago mishum shene'ema tom tiyem l'Hashem Elokecha. So it means that it's like the Ramban, the Chaldean or the Taisis, the Psachim. Okay, so Chayzik Sovim, it's not the Rambam that it's Ma'inen, it's the Ramban that it's Tom Tiyam Hashem Elokecha. Bekoshke, the Osalisho, Bekoismim, Menachshim, Umachashvim, that's the Chumas Adeshin, with the Marshal, we'll not get it. Then he quotes in Sif Tezvav, Oiches Einayim also. So you ask yourself, what is Ma'ine? So you could have said maybe Paski is like the Chomim and not like Rabbi Kiva at all. And there's no Isa Ma'ine and no Isa Nitim. And it's only Oiches Einayim. The only problem is we don't find the Rishon that says that, because even the Riaz who says the Machlokes Tanoim only passes like one, he passes like Rabbi Akiva. We don't find someone who passes only that it's Oiches Einayim. That's what the Shulchan is to say. And Dr. Ramban, who this is all based on, says Lo Yisayinu Chumash, that it's talking about Yediyah and Anonim. So say Yediyah and Anonim, or say something, whatever you want. Maybe it's not astrology, but it's certainly also. And the Shulchan Aruch, there's a laugh. Shulchan doesn't quote it all. Okay. So the Ramban, we have no clue of how this plays itself out, because the Ramban himself says that it's the lav is Yediyas Anonim. Look, Mo'in is Lashon Anonim. Unless you say the Ramban is only ala Teira, and it's and it's derech hapshat. Okay, Chais. And there's also Lechem Mishnah that has another type. Shoisa Mo'inen Perik Yud Aleph Alocha Tesen Avodah Zarah. Shoisa Mo'inen Shoime Ani Ere. It's what you call palm readers. Ani Ere Oischa B'Pas Yad Dvorim Hoasidim Lovo Elecha V'Os V'Asei V'Osa Shezehu Inyan HaMo'inen Shoime Dvorim Asidim Kmo B'Stagninus K'Rekos of Arav. I guess you chayv malchus, and the Shulchan doesn't mention any of this. Now, the Ram continues. V'hu im zeh so the kapach v'im zehu v'hu im zehu v'im zehu goynev das habriyos. He also is a goynev das habriyos, because people think he does X, he did Y, and that's called goynev das. And Mitzvah Shem next week will explain what goynev das a little bit, lineder, and if you want to. And we'll have to go into the Chochmas Adam, but the question is, what about the magical acts or magical, whatever they do? Is one allowed to see it? Is one allowed to do it? Whatever. So Mitzvah Shem, we'll pick all this up next week.